Did you know that most people alive today will work until they die? That's right. Unfortunately, I'm not saying this to be funny, and it's not really an exaggeration. It is just the actual truth. The reality is that the dream of retirement is dead for most people. The dream of where you work 40 or 50 years and then you have enough money saved up and you can just sail into the sunset, those days are over for pretty much everybody. In fact, you got a lot of people who are middle-aged or even my age, getting up to close to 40 and looking at what they have saved for retirement and realizing that they're nowhere near the retirement goals that they need in order to actually make it happen. And even if you're able to partially retire with some of the money that you have saved, there's a good chance that a lot of people alive today are going to have to still work part-time to at least supplement their retirement income to be able to have enough money to live. In fact, about 55% of Americans are behind on their retirement savings, and 10% don't know if they have anything saved for retirement at all, which means that they definitely don't. And when you look at the younger generations, it gets even worse because people my age, millennial generation, about 66% of us, they have nothing saved for retirement at all. Now, I cannot imagine being 37, 38, 40 years old and having absolutely nothing saved for retirement. That is literally worst case scenario. And let's be honest, if you're this late in the game, you're in your late 30s coming up on 40 and you have nothing saved for retirement, there's a good chance that you're not going to really have anything saved up or nothing substantial, and it's going to be next to impossible for you to retire unless you can seriously increase your savings or your ability to earn and save. So without anything short of a miracle happening to somebody in this situation, your odds of retirement are almost nil. The investment firm Fidelity, they recommend that you should have at least 1 year's salary saved for retirement by the time you are 30 years old. So if you make $80,000 a year, you should have $80,000 saved by the time you're 30. And then you should have 3 times your salary saved by the time you're 40 and 6 times your salary saved by the time you are age 50. And this is just to have any shot at being able to fully retire. If you have less than that, then you may be able to partially retire and you will have some money for retirement, but you won't be able to live the full rich lifestyle that you're living right now in retirement. You may have to significantly either cut back in order to make that money last and stretch further, or you may have to work until you die, like I said at the beginning. And here's the sad reality, guys. Only 5% of the adult workforce today will be in the position to retire someday. And it's not like it's really their fault. In some cases it is, but really it comes down to the much broader macroeconomic situation that we talk about all the time here on the channel. It's not that people just spend everything they make and take a ton of vacations and spend it all on electronics and online shopping. Yeah, some people do that. But really what it comes down to is that the cost of living today is so high that almost all of the money being earned is going towards just keeping a roof over your head. It's going towards just having a car, keeping gas in the car, keeping your car insured. Unless you have rich parents that pay for a lot of this stuff for you and you're younger and you're able to save a lot of your money, that's really the only head start you can get. But if you're somebody who's not that fortunate, doesn't have a wealthy upbringing, not only you got to pay for your rent, your food, your gas, your car, and everything like that, but if you went to college, there's a good chance you have student loans as well. And it takes people that have student loans roughly 20 years to pay off those student loans. And I know I've said here on the channel before, I'm against student loan forgiveness. This doesn't change my stance on that. I am against it because the reality is you took a loan and you signed that paperwork as an adult, and you should have fully understood what you're getting yourself into before signing that loan. Just like if you're going to sign for a mortgage or any other type of loan, you need to be aware of the repayment terms and face the reality that you're signing up for a debt that you're going to be responsible for. And now that Trump is going to be president again soon, probably any of this remaining student loan forgiveness programs that are in place will likely be reversed by him and his administration. That's at least what they're talking about. Now you combine all of this too with the fact that a lot of people still want to live the traditional lifestyle. Most people, they still want to get married and have a family and buy a house. All of these things cost a tremendous amount of money, right? Which are going to greatly detract from how much money you're going to be able to save for retirement, which also could mean you'll be working until you die. So most people who are working and alive today almost have to choose between the two. Do you want to have the traditional lifestyle and have the family and have the house, or do you want to retire? Wow, take a look at this place. Sold back in 2019, pre-pandemic, for $4.2 million. Then they tried renting it for $40,000 a month. That didn't work out. Up the price to $60,000 a month. Then they listed it for sale for a whopping $10.2 million at the height of the market in 2022, have been steadily decreasing the price since then. And guess what? The latest price cut of $400K, that brings them down now to $8.6 million. So think about it, guys. Been trying to sell this house for 2.5 years and no one's biting. Imagine how much money it costs to hold on to a house this expensive those 2.5 years. Now we also have to face the reality of human nature, and people tend to procrastinate on issues like retirement because it's not an issue that's immediately in front of you. Retirement's a faraway scenario if you're a young adult, and it's very hard to even think about or consider this when you're young. Even myself, it's something I never really thought about seriously until I got closer to the age of 30, and then I realized, like, hey, I don't have anything saved for retirement either. I saw some videos like this and read some things like this back in my late 20s, coming up on 30, like, this is me. If I don't do something about this now, I may never be able to retire either. Really, the smartest people are the ones who start early, and start saving for retirement right in their early 20s, or even by the time they're 18. Those people almost have a guaranteed shot at retirement because you don't need to save that much for retirement when you're that young, because you have a much longer time horizon, so you can get away with saving less money over a longer period of time and still end up with a nice nest egg at the end. So if that's you, I definitely congratulate you if you're in your early 20s and are already saving for retirement, because you're going to be ahead of pretty much everybody by the time you get to retirement age. But the fact of the matter is, people are wired to deal with problems today. People are wired now to have immediate gratification with everything. And also, if you're struggling with money right now, like you're thinking, oh, my car needs new tires next year. You're thinking, oh, I need to move to a new apartment next year too, because the place I live in now has roaches. Those are immediate problems. And you're not going to be thinking about how much money am I saving for retirement when you're dealing with pressing issues like that. But the problem is, the longer you wait, then the harder it is to catch up. Like, for example, if you want to have like $50,000 a year indefinitely in retirement, and you started saving when you're 20 years old, you only need to save $100 a month until you hit retirement age. That's it, $100 a month. And most people, as they get older, they end up saving and contributing more because your earnings go up and your disposable income goes up. So likely, if you're in this scenario, by the time you reach your 40s or 50s, you might be able to contribute $500-$600 a month to your retirement. And that'll just give you a bonus by the time you do retire. But the problem is, the longer you wait, the more you have to save. If you want that same $50K a year in retirement, if you wait to save until you're 30, now you got to contribute $300 a month. If you wait until you're 40 to start saving, now you have to contribute a whopping $800 a month. And with the median household income sitting between $75,000 and $80,000 a year, most people are not going to be able to contribute $800 a month to retirement if you wait until you're 40. Sure, you're going to have some people that earn a high income and never saved anything and realize later on, like, yeah, I need to catch up. And if you have that high income and you have the disposable income, it'll be much easier for somebody in that position to catch up. But that's really a chance you're taking, that you're going to end up making significantly more money one day to catch up, which is yet another reason why most people will work until they die. But some people might get lucky, because the reality is that 20% of people will die at age 60 or younger. So you might not even need to have any money saved for retirement if that's you. We also know that the younger generation is giving up hope when it comes to having the traditional lifestyle of being able to buy a home and have a family and all that stuff. And sometimes they'll spend the money on travel and experiences instead, and at the same time, they don't save for retirement. And here's the worst part. Even if you're responsible and you have been saving for retirement, you're doing everything right, you're doing it all by the book, you're contributing as much as you can, and you are seeing your investment grow, a lot of people are expecting the same or similar results that we have seen with the stock market over the past several decades, and hope that that scenario is going to repeat itself into future decades. What people earned in the past and what we've seen in past returns may not end up materializing in the future. Of course, you can look at a year like this and say, wow, 2024 was an excellent year for the stock market. So as long as we keep having more years like that, I'll be set. But there's no guarantee of that. That's the problem. Doesn't mean you're gonna have 30 more years of growth like this. But even if you are saving for retirement, you could end up in a situation where you did everything right, but you might not have enough money to live the lifestyle you were hoping for a few different reasons, you know? Inflation could be so much higher by the time you retire that even if you do have a nice nest egg by then, it's just not really enough to actually live off of like you thought it was going to be. There's a lot of people who are going into this situation right now because of how much inflation has gone up. You might also end up living a lot longer than you anticipated and end up outliving your savings, which is definitely a nightmare scenario for a retiree. And you also have to look at the fact that a good chunk of Americans today are living far beyond their means, and it's very obvious due to how much credit card debt we've seen pile up over the past couple of years. We just saw the credit card debt hit 1.17 trillion with no sign of slowing down, which indicates that people are spending far more than they earn, and they're using credit cards and home equity to subsidize their lavish lifestyle. The problem is that will come to an end, and it will be a disastrous end for many. People today are also taking part in much riskier investments that people in the past just never had access to. You have a lot of young people today investing in cryptocurrencies no one's ever even heard of. You know, Bitcoin obviously is probably the only real cryptocurrency that's probably going to be worth anything one day. I could be wrong, but based on everything I know about crypto, that seems to be the case right now. But people are pouring money in all kinds of stupid things, are like a one-off and a long shot, hoping to get rich off of that. People are also investing in riskier hedge funds and riskier stock market portfolios, and they're buying in at higher and higher prices, expecting the returns to just go on forever. That's not really a great investment strategy either. Now, a lot of people today are investing like it's playing the lottery or something, you know? I'm probably never gonna have enough to retire anyways, so let's take the chance on something and hope I get lucky. It's just like buying a lottery ticket. I've seen other people get lucky and get rich off of this, so I might too. But the problem is most people end up getting burned and lose most of their money and don't actually win the lottery. And you can even go too far in the opposite direction where you save and invest too much for retirement. Then you run into major life expenses you weren't expecting, then you have to sell off a lot of your investments. Selling early can also come with steep penalties and taxes that you weren't expecting to pay, and you can also end up having to sell at a time when the market is down, which means that you are selling at a significant loss. So you really have to be calculated and balance out that you're not saving too much either. Another reason that a lot of people will work until they die is because saving for retirement isn't fun and exciting. You know, it's very slow, takes a long time, and it's very boring. And in this instant gratification society, that's not a very appealing thing to do. You know, that summer vacation to Europe when you're 22 looks a lot better than putting a couple $1,000s into your 401k. And having financial stability going into 2025 is a very difficult thing to have, basically due to the macroeconomic situation once again. You know, we're in a situation where you're seeing a ton of layoffs, right? There's people losing jobs left and right, thousands and thousands of people losing jobs. At the same time, you have companies that are not hiring anymore. A lot of the jobs numbers that we've seen over the past year have been completely faked. And on top of that, people used to keep the same job for their whole life. You know, they work 30, 40, 50 years at a company and have that stability. And now you don't have that anymore. A lot of people are just chasing one opportunity to the next. A lot of people are in between jobs because you get a good job, you think you're doing great, next thing you know, you're laid off and you have to deal with that. That's a form of stability that people used to have that they really don't anymore. People need to navigate this horrible jobs market in order to try to stay ahead of the game, which can be very difficult, if not impossible. And every time you find a good job, you get a salary you're happy with, and you might not be able to keep that job for very long until you're on the hunt for another one. And in a volatile situation like that, without stability, it makes it very difficult to save for retirement. You know, in order for you to be saving for the future, you need to feel like everything today is okay. Everything today is taken care of. So when you get fired or laid off unexpectedly and you have expenses that also come up unexpectedly, this will throw you off track quite a bit. And here's another thing that people need to realize. You know, up until now, when I'm referencing retirement, pretty much referencing the traditional method of retirement where people will invest in the stock market over a period of about 40 years and then have a nest egg saved up to retire. That's the most traditional and common way people have been taught to save for retirement. But of course, there's other ways to do it. One other way that has gained a lot of popularity over the recent years and have made it look so easy has been real estate investing, where basically you buy enough properties and you're making enough money monthly in rental income where you have endless retirement money in that situation. Way before that ever became a popular thing on the internet, that was actually my retirement plan. But as I've gotten older and have been a landlord for many years, I've kind of given that idea a second thought, because the reality is that's a very difficult retirement, because you're going to have a lot of problems that come up and a lot of things you have to deal with as a landlord. Even if you have property managers handling a lot of it for you, you're going to have a lot of headaches. There's a lot of responsibility, and it can be a lot of unexpected expenses that come up with that as well. And when you're in your 70s or 80s and beyond, you might not want to deal with that. So another way that I kind of look at it now is a different way you could use real estate to retire. One of my financial goals is to own a second home in California so I can spend my summers there in the future without renting. And so if I get to a retirement age and I have another house there, I have another house here, I have another house somewhere else, well, now all of a sudden I have 3 houses, and if all 3 of those houses are worth $1 million, I could sell those houses, and even if I had nothing saved for retirement, now all of a sudden I have $3 million for retirement. So that's another way to go about it as well. And the reality is, having $3 million all of a sudden because you offloaded your real estate is more money than most people will ever have from saving in the stock market. So you just have to look outside the box and think that there are more ways to go about saving for retirement, and retirement doesn't have to look the same for everyone. And one of the best parts I like about this idea I mentioned here is if, say, you own multiple properties, you get to use and enjoy those properties. You can rent them out for supplemental income to help with carrying costs along the way. As you own those houses, you get to use those houses. Those are vacation houses, places that you get to go and enjoy your time at. And that's something that you can never do with a stock market portfolio. So there's added benefits to doing it that way as well. But another reason that people are not going to be able to retire and will work until they die is because, according to some recent data from Bank of America, about 30% of all U.S. households said they spend more than 95% of their disposable income on necessities like housing costs, groceries, and utility bills, which is up substantially from just 2019 levels. And the share is even higher at 35% of households for people who make $50,000 a year or less. So people in this position are just never going to have the money for retirement, no matter how badly they want to. And now, going into 2025, Trump is talking about having tariffs, and that can easily raise the cost of living even higher for most people. If there's a 10 or 20% tariff on something, now all of a sudden stuff just got 10 or 20% more expensive, and most people aren't going to be getting a 10 or 20% raise to keep up with that. But I'll tell you who doesn't have to worry about retirement: Congress. That's right, because they just passed a new spending bill. And take a look at this, guys. There's a 40% pay increase there for Congress. The members of Congress' salary will go from $174,000 a year to $243,000 a year. They say that they need this for cost of living adjustments. They say that they're broke, and you have about 100 Congress members who actually sleep in their office. Meanwhile, a bunch of these guys got rich off of insider trading, which, if they're not doing that, then I don't know what they're thinking, because they just missed out on the greatest opportunity ever. But you're telling me that the average household makes between 75 and 80K a year, household, not even individual, right? And these guys are already making 174K a year, crying that they're broke. So they already make more than double what the average household makes. And now they're going to be making triple, because that's just not enough. And on top of that, our nation has to add to the national deficit and go deeper into debt to pay for these clowns' future salary and retirement. It's just not fair. Nobody voted for that. You know what I mean? Like, I hate those comments that say, oh, you get what you voted for. Tell me out there who voted for this. Nobody. These spending bills are bipartisan. So both Republicans and Democrats have to agree to this and sign off on this stuff. So I guess everybody voted for this if you look at it like that, because those are the only 2 choices. Everybody voted for a Republican or a Democrat, in pretty much all cases. So I guess you really did vote for this. So congratulations. These guys are getting rich off of our hard work and our tax money that is just being squandered. So if you're down on your luck and you're having a hard time figuring out how you're going to retire, just become a member of Congress and then you'll be set. You don't have to worry about it anymore. You're going to be going from nothing to making, $243K a year overnight. If you're a good liar, you're a pretty good candidate. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.